Hey guys, welcome back to another Avius tutorial here. This time we're going to talk about renting in rooms because probably by this point you've gotten up some levels, you've been hanging out on your base, you may have come in contact with a couple people that maybe have PvP'd you, or you've participated in a PvP, or have tried to grief and steal your stuff, and you might be wondering, how can I keep my stuff safe? Where can I go to stay safe? And your answer to that is fiefdom, specifically renting rooms in fiefdoms. Now, you can also buy land. That's something we'll talk about later, but new towns will probably at least have an inn set up. And you can go for a fee over, like, overnight, like a nightly fee basically is what I'm trying to say. You can go ahead and rent one of these rooms. So here's my inn. I just opened it here in Forstford. You can see it's a cute little building here. Each inn will consist of anywhere from 1 to 6 rooms. We have it limited because we want people to, like, we don't want everybody to have access to them, and we want people to not stay in them forever. So we do only have 6 rooms. You can see I've got my 3 down here, 1, 2, and 3. And then upstairs I have 3 more. The ones downstairs go for less money than upstairs. You can see here's room 3. You can decorate it however you want once you own it, because you will have permission to it. They might decorate it differently. I, for instance, given a bed, which is kind of pointless, but it's decoration. But you get a crafting table, furnace, you can put your own chests in there and whatnot. So basically, you're going to rent one of these rooms. And what you're going to do is you're going to notice that when you walk around town, you don't have permission to anything in land owned by somebody else, like in a fiefdom. However, you can rent one of these rooms and get permission to the inside of this room, meaning you can open chests, you can place chests, you can put a painting on the wall, you can use a furnace, but you will be the only person allowed to do that. So if I owned this room, Kit Kat and Little would not be able to open my chest, but I would be able to, so my stuff would be safe from griefers. In addition to that, living in a fiefdom allows PvP and mob spawning to be turned off. So fiefdoms are relatively safe places with the exception of wars, which will be talked about way down the road and are kind of a rare occurrence. We actually have not had an official one on Avius yet, mainly because it's still being set up as everything's making the plugin. But we'll talk about the commands here in a moment for how to go ahead and rent a room. But I do want to mention one more thing, and that is when you do own one of these little rooms, you only own it for a certain amount of time. So say you rent it for 4 or 5 days, you only own it for 4 or 5 days. So if you have a bunch of stuff in there and then time runs out in 5 days from now, and you didn't remove all of your stuff, you're no longer going to have permission to that room. So unless you remove all of your items from that room in itself, you will not be able to get them back. So unless you take all the items out or you start renting it again right away, you will not be able to rent it or get your stuff out. So make sure you pay attention to how long you've rented the room. So the inns also have a shop where you can go into that shop and buy bread, or buy food, usually bread or baked potatoes for a small price. Each town hires an innkeeper to run those places. So if you need some basic materials, it's a really, really great place. You can also get something to drink with their brewery plugin, which we'll talk about later. So if you want to just stop and pass through a town and rent a room for a night, you're welcome to. But if you want to stay in a town for a week or two because you notice there's some good mines nearby, you're welcome to do that as well. Again, just remember to pay attention to the time limit so that you don't lose your items or get them locked in there, or somebody rents the room if you don't play for a weekend and your time expires and then you lose all of your stuff. So that's the only thing with this, but otherwise it's a monthly fee you pay right up, and we'll go ahead and talk about the commands next. So we're going to go ahead and rent a room here. The plugin we use is called Realtor because it's made to also buy stuff, buy land remotely, but we have it do inns remotely. So before you had to get an admin or a moderator to do the in-room for you. Now you can do it all of yourself, and it's all hands-off for the moderation, which is great. So the first basic command you're going to want to do is see, maybe you haven't picked a town yet and you're still at spawn. You have to decide, like, maybe where you want to go, where are there open rooms, how much are they going to cost me in certain towns. So you're going to do /realtor, list, available, and then for rent. This will just show literally all of them. So if chat's busy, it's a little bit hard to see, but you can always narrow it down a little bit. Mess around with the command. You can type it in like halfway, and then it'll show you what else you can put in, just like any other command. But you can see Bossing Say has some in rooms for 15 copper pieces, 10, 20, 30. Featherin has some for 10. New Haven has some. Shadow, forget what that town's name is, has some. But then you'll see here, there is Forstford. Now, somebody is renting rooms 1 and 2. I believe that's Kit Kat and Little Diva. So 3, 4, 5, and 6 are open. You can see room 3, because it's downstairs, is 10 copper pieces a day. And then the room up here, 5 and 6, or 4, 5, and 6, are 20 copper pieces a day. So after you've decided what you wanted to rent, so say you saw that Forstford had really cheap in rooms, only 10 copper pieces a day. It's the cheapest out there on the market. So you travel all the way to Forstford, and then you see, oh, hey, room 3, this is what room 3 looks like. I want it. I want to rent it. I'm only passing through, though, because I eventually want to go to Ba Sing Se. So I just want to spend the night somewhere for safety and keep my stuff here, get some food and whatnot. So I only want to rent it for 24 hours, and then I'll be on my merry way. So /realtor, rent, the name of the room, which is why you type this in, so you can see that it is Forstford Inn 3. We try to make the names as easy as possible and as identifiable as possible, so obviously it's Haven or Forstford, and then the inn, and then the room number that it is. So Forstford Inn 3, and then you'll put in here the time frame that you want to rent it at. And for instance, we just want to put 1. Put this in days, okay? So if you want to rent it for a week, it's 7. And what it's going to do is it's going to charge you all of those copper pieces for the entire duration, so you don't have to keep paying, so you pay it all up front. And if you're thinking 10 copper pieces a day, that's actually really cheap, because you have to kill, like, what, 3 or 4 zombies in that one time frame to go ahead and do that. So we'll press enter. Well, that's awkward. I pressed the enter key. I pressed the other enter key for some reason to submit that command, and then it stopped recording because I have that set as my thing for some reason. So I have to, like, recover what I just said. But hopefully I can find in chat here where... Yes. So I put that in there, and it told me the Forstford Inn. I've rented room 3. Of course the train would come right now. I just cannot possibly record. There's been 4 separate obnoxious introductions in this episode. We're just going to let it go by. Okay, I think it's gone through the crossing. So... I've rented the room, as you can see, for 1 day for a total of 10 copper pieces. So remember, I've only owned it for 24 hours right now. It's a total of 10 copper pieces. You pay for the whole price of the room up front. So if it was 7 days, it would have been 70 copper pieces down up front. 10 copper pieces is pretty cheap. Only got to kill a couple zombies every day to make that money back. So it can be worth it in a lot of situations. You can see, while I am obviously the owner of the region, you can also see that I am the member of the region. So if you go to these other rooms, you'll see that Kit Kat and Little Diva are members of this region. And then when their time staying in the inn is up, it'll remove them from the region. And if you want to check to see like how much time you have left, you can just type in /realtor and you get all the commands. So if you want to get info on the region, or you know, so if we want to see what we're currently renting, realtor list rented. And you can rent in more than 1 room. So I have this in room for 23 more hours, and I can rent it for, you know, if I wanted to rent one in New Haven, I could as well. And this kid keeps sending me a ton of money. Good grief. Okay, this was a really distracting episode. I really apologize for that. I hope I still got the point across. We have more details. This is all written out in a guide on the forums. I will link down in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. Next episode, we're going to talk mastering a rank.